Good afternoon, everyone. This is Nick here with What Game Now with part 2 in our series on bettering your game or building a better army. If you haven't seen part 1, go ahead and drop into that right now. To quickly bring us up to speed, though, this is a video series covering how you as players or how we can improve our game, either with existing collections of models, maybe we're looking to purchase more models. How can we take this assemblage of troops you have and actually turn them into strategies that give us a chance at winning? This isn't necessarily aimed at competitive players. This applies to casual too. It's mostly for people who are trying to get a better performance on the tabletop. So, without further ado, let's talk about part 2 in this discussion, and that is the idea of missions. So, previously we talked about the idea of a victory condition, which is the things you need to do to win the game. Missions are how you go about doing that. A mission I define as a specific task to be completed in furtherance of winning the game. Unlike win conditions, which are simple statements, these are a combination of a task and a time frame. Do this by this time. Do this, and here's your time frame. Not all of them are going to be about scoring points, but they are all going to be moving you towards winning the game. And that's what we're going to go ahead and dive into here. So the first type of mission we can have is based off of scoring. And these are missions that come to us from the game system telling us, here's what you need to do to score points. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at those and we're going to say, okay, well, in order to actually score these points, what needs to happen? And a good example here could be maybe you need to have a unit around an objective in order to score. A mission would be for a unit to secure that objective with a time frame on it. Now, that's very important because many times, and this was something that when I first started playing, I really struggled with, was the idea that the mission only matters at the end, or at the end of the mission. So if I need to secure an objective, but it doesn't matter until the last turn of the game, that's an important piece of information, because essentially what we have here is a giant puzzle. What units are going to go where, when, and do what? And the more flexibility we have in that puzzle, the easier it's going to be for us to find a solution. And these time frames are going to be very important because these missions, we're going to go a step further with these and determine which units in our army are best suited to fill these missions. Now that's going to be for a later video. We need to talk about what units do first, and that's the next video in this series. But for now, this is what we need to do, and this is when we need to have it done by. If I need to secure an objective by turn 5, turns 1 through 4, I don't need to be securing that objective. I just need to secure it turn 5. Well, that might free up this unit to do other things, to pursue other missions. Excuse me, got to keep the water going. And then also it's worth noting while we're looking at these missions, it's important to consider where these missions are going to occur because it's going to change the nature of the units we're going to assign to them. For example, if I secure an objective on my side of the table, that's going to have a different unit that excels at that than a unit that is designed to capture objectives on your opponent's side of the table. When it comes to your opponent's side of the table, you're going to need more offensive ability, whereas if it's on your side of the table, you need more defensive ability because there's implied to be a go take the objective on your opponent's side. And additionally here, you can have any other special requirements. These are things that maybe aren't necessarily directly related to the victory condition. Things like go to the center, secure the center of the table, or this unit needs to be in this position to do something. Maybe not necessarily from the perspective of winning the game, but that's not the important part. If you look back here, it's in furtherance of winning the game. A mission does not necessarily have to let you win the game, but it should get you closer to it. All right, let's talk about some other types of missions here. There's 2 other common places you can find missions. The first one is in prevention. So you have a list of what ifs and shoulds. This should happen, this should happen. your opponent has that too. And in many cases, winning the game isn't about achieving a certain number of points, it's about achieving more than your opponent. So, yeah, remember, this isn't a race. You can trip your opponent. It's totally okay. And that's what these missions are for. So don't be afraid to consider missions that are more dealing with your opponent on prevention. My opponent needs to score this, so I'm going to prevent them from doing it. My opponent needs to be able to attack this unit or whatever, and as we go on, these will become more and more defined. And it's also worth noting that the last type of mission you can encounter is missions that are designed to increase your available options. So a good example would be in, say, chess. In chess, one of the most powerful things you can do is control the 4 center squares. Okay. By having control of those, you have control of a large, that gives you access to the entire board. And that's true in miniature gaming too. Control of the center of the table, usually it's the center, or fairly close to it, is going to increase your options. So there are missions that could be around this, and these can include small local objectives. Now, not all of these missions are things we're going to set out first. When we actually go to putting this together, you'll find a constant give and take between missions and units and all of that. So don't worry right now about finding all of these. We're just talking about what they are. The victory conditions have to happen first, the missions don't. So let me finish this off by giving you a few example missions. So an example mission statement might be, secure an objective on your opponent's side of the table by turn 5. There's a statement, do this thing. I've noted a location, which is generally very helpful if you are able to do that. And I put a time frame on it. Okay, so there you go. Hold an objective on my side of the table for 3 turns. Again, same thing. Statement, time frame. Destroy as many enemy units as possible by turn 5. Again, statement and time frame. These last 3 I didn't put a time frame on. And you'll see why, and hopefully you see why in a minute, why this changes a little bit what we're looking at here. These are still 3 example missions. I'll put the time frame on it, but I didn't write them down. So prevent enemy from landing reinforcements in a specified area. For how long? Is this a whole game? Is this a couple turns? Because that's a big difference. If you're preventing them from landing in a certain area, that's probably a lot of space you're taking up, a lot of units, a lot of potential ability of firepower. You know, units can only really be working towards 1, maybe 2 missions at a time. If they're doing this, are they doing something else? Do I need to care about my opponent landing reinforcements on turn 2 or turn 4? And that's where these questions come in. That's why time is so important. Destroying enemy long-range artillery. Now, interestingly enough, this one you can argue doesn't actually need a time frame because it's a do this thing. Implicitly, it would be as quickly as possible. You know, anytime you're dealing with attacking units or whatever, it's generally going to be as quickly as possible. And that's probably true. Destroying enemy artillery, the longer it's on the table, is bad. So implicitly, I'd probably put there as quickly as possible. And then finally, we have secure center of the table. This is one that I often cite in War Machine, where the center of the table is actually pretty important. This is a thing that it's more of an ongoing statement. You always want to have this, so it's always there, and you want it done as quickly as possible. Ideally, though, we really should put times here. I apologize. So, guys, that's been Nick here with What Game Now, talking about missions. In the next one, we'll talk about roles, which are the things that units do. And then we'll talk about a few other things and then start putting all this together. So, with that, guys, have a good one. I'll catch you later.
Hey, this is Dave. If you like what we're doing here at What Game Now, go ahead and click on one of the videos which should be on either side of me, or click right in the middle and go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the bell once you subscribe so that you know when we have new videos. Please go ahead and share us with your friends. Let everybody know that we're here. Thank you for watching, and thank you for all of our subscribers already. And we look forward to bringing you more content every chance that we get.